Very good. Then at this time, I'll call to order the Port Authority for the City of St. Louis for its regularly scheduled board meeting held on October 12, 2023 via Zoom. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Cone,
Present.
Commissioner Kay,
Present.
Commissioner Mason,
Here.
Chair McBride.
Present. And we have a quorum. Moving on to the approval of minutes for the meeting held on September 15, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Alderman Cone.
Second, Kay.
And moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Cone,
Aye.
Commissioner Kay,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye. And the motion passes and the resolution and the minutes are approved. We'll take up resolution 23 PT 34 relating to the BPS approval of a one-year mooring permit. Susan, can you walk us through that, please?
Yes, this is good morning, everyone. This is the end of a lease that was a 25-year lease. There were no milestones in the middle of it. And it expires at the end of December. And it's a fleeting lease that's in front of the proposed South Riverfront redevelopment project. And so rather than go out for another long-term lease, we talked to the current lessee, Archway Fleeting, and said, would you like to continue for one more year while we sort out the South Riverfront redevelopment project? And they've agreed to do that, or they would like to do that. And so we're asking permission to recommend that BPS give them a one-year permit. The one-year permit would be at the current rate that we're charging for fleeting, which would be $70 a linear foot, which makes this lease $168,000 for the year. It's currently generating a little under $8,000 a year, partly because the terms that were put together 25 years ago enabled such a rate. So our request is to allow us to recommend to BPS to issue Archway a one-year permit.
At the newest, at the updated lease rate. Gotcha.
That's right.
I think that seems prudent. Are there any questions for Susan on this resolution? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution 23 PT 34.
So moved. Alderman Cone.
Second. Either way.
Properly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Cone,
Aye.
Commissioner Kay,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye. Motion passes and the resolution is approved. All right, let's take up resolution 23 PT 35 relating to Continental Cement Company. Susan?
This is another, this is an ongoing lease. It started about 10 years ago, and they contacted us a year and some months early saying that they wanted to renew, and so we thought, okay, we'll do that. And their rate is also currently at the lower, at a lower rate than what we view as market rates. And so we proposed, and they've accepted the current market rates, which will in effect double their lease starting a year and some months from now, starting January 1st, 25. So the request before the commission is to accept, to allow us to accept their, agree to their first 5-year extension. So they're at year 10 in a year and a half, and so this will be their first 5-year mutually agreeable extension.
All right, any questions for Susan on this resolution? I think everything seems in order in that regard. And they're up on their rental payments?
Oh,
The
yeah.
lease payments to us?
Yeah,
Okay,
they're a good tenant.
very good. If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 23 PT 35.
So moved. Alderman Cone.
Second. Previous roll call.
And properly moved and seconded. It's a request for previous roll Is there any objection to that request? Hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is approved. All right, looks like the next item we have is our Q3 lobbyist reports from Mr. Johnson and Ms. Barget. Who would like to go first?
Well, I'll be glad to start if that's all right.
That'd be great. That would be fine.
Report on the chaos in Washington.
little
So
bit.
when we last spoke, I told you all that it looked increasingly likely like we were going to have a government shutdown in October. As you all, I'm sure, have seen, that was narrowly averted. But because Speaker McCarthy didn't stay in proper did not continue to get along with his right-wing zealots in the House. He was shortly thereafter removed from the speakership. Since that's happened, there's no legislative activity that can be done or has been done in the House. Yesterday, Congressman Steve Scalise, a Republican from the New Orleans area, was nominated by the Republicans in the House to be the next speaker. But he got roughly 113 votes in the Republican caucus. Under the rules of the House, he needs 217 votes on the House floor. He's nowhere near that now. So, and that virtually means he's got to get almost unanimous support of all of the House Republicans. Long story short, he doesn't have the votes. He may not get the votes. If that happens, and we have more chaos, and as I say, the House can't do any business without a speaker. Meanwhile, we have this horrible war in Israel. The president wants to get funds through the Congress to support Israel, and none of that can happen until the House picks a speaker. So we shall see how that plays out, but it doesn't look like it's going to be resolved quickly, but you never know for sure. In terms of the day-to-day operations of the government, the funding for the government was extended through November 17th, including all the agencies that the port deals with, the Coast Guard, the Maritime Administration, etc. Given all of this turmoil in the House, I hate to say it to you all again, but it's entirely possible that we'll have a government shutdown sometime in November, which would be particularly rough right before Thanksgiving. But it's increasingly likely that could happen. In terms of some of the things we've been working on with Susan and her team, we have been working to identify potential grants to support the South River Redevelopment Project. There are several EPA grants that look like they may bear fruit and may provide some potential funding for the port. So we're working on that. Additionally, we are working on outreach to the Coast Guard in connection with a number of things that the Coast Guard might do together with the port, including mooring some new Coast Guard cutters at the port, as well as possibly putting a Coast Guard recruiting center in place. And so we're in the initial stages of putting a strategy together on that and meeting with the relevant folks at the Coast Guard and interacting with the Missouri delegation to make sure that they are supportive and putting in a good word with the Coast Guard as we proceed. So those are the things that we're currently involved with. I'm glad to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions from the commissioners? All right, well, thank you for operating in that environment for us. Jackie, what do you have any good news for us?
Good news, the Missouri legislature is still in their interim, so they're not they're not meeting right now. Session starts on January 3rd, so they're still in their break time, what they say. But there is a lot still going on. I'm sure you all have already seen a bunch of things for the 2024 elections already kicking off, mailers, everything else, filing for those races statewide, House, Senate, everything else don't open until February, but that has not kept people from publicly making announcements for governor, for every other statewide seat as well. It's going to be a very interesting year next year. On top of the governor's race, where we have our current lieutenant governor, our current secretary of state, and current sitting state senator Bill Eigel all running for governor. We have a number of state senators that are running for other statewide offices, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, auditor. So it is going to be a very interesting year. I always say every election year is always progress doesn't happen that often because you see a lot of people getting up, doing stump speeches that they can use for campaign materials once session's out. But it also is a very unique year. I'm trying to say this right. So half of our Missouri Senate is up for re-election in 2024. Of those Republican seats, there are at least 2 Republicans in every single race. So if you are not far enough right, what I call the uber conservatives have put up a candidate to run against someone in those seats. So there is no one that is just going to run through their primary as a Republican willy-nilly this year. So that makes every single vote and every single thing that they say on the floor this year clippable for media and everything else. So it's going to make for a very interesting year. I hate sometimes not less progress is good for us when they're not trying to push a bunch of crazy ideas, but unfortunately, I think it's going to be a pretty slow, combative year, kind of similar to how a session ended last year. But beyond that, we already have started kicking everything off. So our 13 departments released their budget recommendations for the year. They do that at the beginning of October, which they released last week. MoDOT recommended the exact same amount of money, $11.6 million that was appropriated last year. That will then go, typically, then the governor does his State of the State address, puts out his recommendations, and then the House takes that, goes through the budget process, and then the Senate takes that, goes through the appropriations process. This year is going to be a little different. The chair of the House Budget Committee is going to start his budget hearings at the beginning of December. That way he thinks that will give him an entire month to do. They can't vote on anything or actually make any changes to the budget bills, but he wants to have all of the departments give their presentations and come speak to the legislators prior to session beginning. They used to do that about 15 years ago. It used to be very common practice, but it hasn't happened since then. So that's kind of got a lot of people riled up about what that means necessarily, but I think it's going to be pretty uneventful. I don't think it's going to streamline anything like they think it will, but we'll let them think that. The only other big thing that's been going on that Susan and I have been working on, if you guys remember last year, the legislature passed and created a new trust fund called the Waterways and Ports Trust Fund that ideally would allow ports 2 years to expend appropriations that are given to them. James fortunately found in that language that the way that it is written in our interpretation, it excludes St. Louis from being able to participate in that fund. MoDOT kind of had a couple of comments about, well, I don't know, maybe we could, maybe we couldn't. But just to be on the safe side, Susan and I have talked, we are going to we've already talked to the bill sponsors from last year, our St. Louis delegation, about making a tweak to that language to make sure that St. Louis can participate in that fund. But we're also going to, and just to be safe, ask for a separate appropriation from that fund just for St. Louis Port Authority to ensure that we have an appropriation that can be utilized next year. We've talked to the Senate Appropriations Committee chair, budget chair, and our budget folks that are on both committees, and everyone seems, no one has any concerns with it as of right now, which is good. They kind of realized that it was an oversight, that was not the intent of the language. So we'll keep working on that moving forward. And then the only other thing, Susan and I had been talking about inviting our St. Louis regional legislators down to the Port Authority to kind of tour, get a little better understanding of what all happens at the Port Authority. A lot of them know a little about it from us meeting with them and talking with them in the past, but most of them have not been down there to see it and actually see what goes on and how it differs from some of the other port authorities in the state. I think that is all I have right now. I don't know if you all have any questions about any specific races going on or anything else. Do not ever hesitate to ask. I figured I don't need to bore you with that on this morning.
Very good. Thank you, Jackie. Any questions from the commissioners? I don't see, I do see one. Commissioner Mason, did you have a question?
No, not for Miss Jackie, but I do have a question later on.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you very much for the Q3 Lobbyist report. We appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you at the next update.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, on the open agenda, we have a matter relating to the Mary Meacham Freedom Crossing. Susan, can you update us on that and anything else on open agenda, please?
Yeah, as you can see from what's printed on the agenda, GRG operates and maintains the Mary Meacham Freedom Crossing Center. It's in a building that was, I believe, an Army Corps building, and they have their steps down to the water's edge, and they have events there. So there's an event coming up Saturday from 12 to 4. It's free, and there's a website link. So if you are interested in attending, that website has more information about where to park and what's on tap for that event. So I wanted you all to know that GRG rents that property from us. So they have 2 leases with us, and one of them is this ground under the Mary Meacham site. And then, so the only other thing under open agenda is we continue to have good, the cruise boats are still coming. One of them Viking wanted some extra visits, as I recall. Am I right, Roland, this summer? Yeah.
Yes,
no?
yes, they've come
Okay.
on weekends.
They had some extra visits, and they're all expressing an interest in coming back, or they're all planning on coming back next year. They've sent us their schedules, so that's good. We want them to keep coming back and hopefully have more stops here. So that's what I have under open agenda. I don't know if Neil's on the screen. I don't see him. Okay, so that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commissioners in open agenda?
I have a question. Since we're talking about crazy ideas and zealots, I have a question for Susan regarding the boat cruises. Can anybody give me any information on this Homeless Bill of Rights, Board Bill 126, which allows homeless camps to be started or in our city? I know that there was an issue downtown at City Hall, but it was cleared overnight when Kamala Harris came to St. Louis, as if we don't have a homeless problem. And can somebody, because my neighborhood association is up in arms about homeless camps being set up on, I guess, the public properties. If it's anything like Board Bill 150, that's a travesty and it's horrible. So how are we as a port authority going to go forward when we have people visiting our city, particularly with the new soccer stadium that we have built, and people are coming to watch the games. And then we have people coming down the river who want to get off, embark and visit our city. And we have a huge homeless camp downtown and around our city. What is being done to stop this? And why do people feel like homeless people have a right to live on the streets like animals? We can't find, we can't have additional shelters for them. Can somebody please talk to me about that?
I can say from the Port Authority's perspective, I mean, we're not involved in that. All of the mayors, that's all coming out of the mayor's office. The mayor's director of operations and other people are responding to those issues. And at this, so we have no really involvement in that. We do try to protect all the people that come to St. Louis on the cruise boats. And so we have, we've hired overnight security staff to deal with whatever security issues might crop up when those boats are moored overnight. But there's a lot of stakeholders trying to keep the riverfront open and available and welcoming to cruise boats. And so it's us and Great Rivers Greenway, the street department, the Gateway Arch Riverboat Cruises, some other stakeholders are trying to make this a better welcoming place. But the Port Authority itself has really no involvement. And I would suggest your neighborhood group contact the mayor's office because they're handling the various issues. And those board bills are also at the Board of Aldermen. So I don't know who your alderman is, but or woman is, but I would contact them as well.
So the Port Authority can't make a statement in terms of how bad this bill would be for tourism in the summer and downtown and near the port area, because we do have some issues on the riverfront with homelessness. So you can't have a statement or express your concern about this bill if it's passed or if it's signed.
I think, yeah, I think that might be a little premature right now too, Commissioner Mason, and that they're still working on the language and working on the breadth and scope of that. So I hear what you're saying, but I don't know that, that's the purview of the Port Authority as a body itself to be making statements on that.
Or just to say that they don't agree with it, because I'm very concerned about homeless camps, particularly in neighborhoods and downtown.
Mhm.
I
And
mean-
yeah, to the extent we're getting out of the geographic area of the port, I think it's also, again, I don't know, within our purview, I don't think we've done anything, made statements on pending board bills at any time in the past. But I hear what you're saying.
Well, I'm very concerned about it and very concerned about what's happening downtown and the homeless, just for the record, I guess I would say. And I will contact my alderman and get our neighborhood association more involved in this, because it concerns me greatly. I'm from California and I have family in San Francisco, and it is not pretty. And that's my hometown. And I'm afraid to go back and visit my relatives because of how it looks. It is just not a pretty thing to encounter.
Commissioner Mason, you're also welcome to call me. I obviously would encourage you to call your alderperson as well, but if you'd like to talk more specifics about the pending legislation before the board, I'm happy to discuss that with you as well.
I will do that. I'll get your information.
Very good. Anything else in open agenda from the commissioners? Seeing none, our next board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 9. That sounds like that'll be before any potential government shutdown, so it'll still be a fully functioning republic at that time. And unless there's anything else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Oh, second, Alderman Cone, previous role.
Moved and second, request for previous role. We are adjourned. Thank you all.